welcome back to the fourth installment of our World Fair series, third actual coverage of an expo. Kat and I are so glad that you're back, and if you're just joining us, we really do recommend popping back to the first episode, which gives you the backstory to World's Fairs or expos in general, at least either before or after this episode, as a little bit of background.
I'll also give you some context as to why we chose the fairs that we chose, when technically maybe some others could have counted.
Technically, many could have counted and probably were more entertaining than some of these too. But maybe had less research because they weren't actual official ones.
That's the thing. That's the interesting thing about it, is that if we're going through all the official World Fairs, it's going to be a very different story than if we're going through like all the World Fairs, which would be a way bigger undertaking.
Yeah. But in general, we are back in good old London, everybody.
Early days London, they just can't get enough of it.
Sadly, though, our dear friend Prince Albert has recently passed away, and Queen Victoria is deep in mourning.
Tragic. So then they decided to throw a whole party as a sort of pick-me-up?
Well, I mean, it doesn't stop the attempt to one-up both ourselves and France with yet a bigger and better exposition, like...
Absolutely. We can't pass up an opportunity to show France that we can do things bigger and better than them.
Like, that wouldn't be what Albert would have wanted one bit!
It's like seriously, it's like an arms war, but for an entertainment. It's such...
You probably put that, like, that maybe his last words. Don't let my death stop you from another World's Fair! No, it wouldn't be his last words, but still, like... It could be in, like, one of his last words, like, in one of his last declarations or something, like...
It does seem like a weird time to do it, though.
Right?
Like, hey, we just lost a major world leader, let's throw a party.
Well, I mean, it would have been in planning for a couple years.
I guess, but, like, we delay things all the time for less than that now.
Not in the 1800s.
You know what? Fair. I'll give it to them.
All right. So, as you recall, the last official World Fair, as deemed by the Bureau in the far future, was in 1855. And we are now looking at 1862. Of course, this is not the only World Fair in that time period, as there were at least 12 other fairs around the world, including in Britain and their colonies, between these official fairs.
See, this is what I mean about how it would be such, like, a way bigger undertaking.
Well, one of these fairs was even held in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, in our own version of a Crystal Palace.
Oh, wait, is that the ice... I'm going to shut up now because I don't know what it's actually officially called, but the ice thing! The cool ice thing!
Well, it housed the exhibition as well as one of the first ever ice hockey arenas, where the first known photograph of ice hockey players in uniforms was taken in 1881.
Cool.
It sadly was also destroyed by a fire about 40 years earlier than its UK counterpart.
Ironic.
Yeah. So both Crystal Palaces just poof up in flames.
I mean, that for one thing, but also that the first ice hockey arena burned down is just...
No, it's not the first ice hockey arena, it's just the first ice hockey arena where the first known photograph of ice hockey players in uniforms was taken.
Okay, fair enough.
It's one of the first ice hockey arenas, though, because it is in Montreal, Quebec, that the first ice hockey arenas were.
Okay, fair enough. Still ironic that it burned down, though.
Yeah. I mean, they were made out of pretty much, like, wood. Like, it wasn't concrete like we have today.
Yeah, this is true. This is fair.
Like, it wasn't fire safety standards.
It's ice.
Like the ice was in the middle of it. It's not like it's an actual, like the actual, like, ice igloo, kind of like the ice hotels and stuff. Like, it's not made out of ice cat.
No, I know it's not like the ice hotel. I just think it's funny that an ice rink burns down. It's like...
It happens more than you think.
But it's funny. It's designed to be cold. I just think you have to royally screw up in order to burn down an ice rink. I don't know.
Yeah, no. All right, but let's talk about the London Fair, since that's official and why we are technically here, as much as I would prefer to talk about an ice hockey rink. So... the event was actually meant to be held in 1861. Okay. However, the Italian War of Independence and the American Civil War kind of delayed things. So wars we can delay, a death, no.
I mean, to be fair, war is far more significant than.
Yeah.
I mean, one person dying, tragic. War is many, many, many people dying.
Yeah. So colonies wanting to leave takes away men, money, and other resources that are necessary for showing up other parts of the world in agriculture, technology, art, and manufacturing. One of the major issues, though, that cropped up with the American Civil War, though, was that there was a cotton shortage. And that did not sit well with people around the world, that they were not able to import their cotton.
That's the problem?
That was a big, huge fucking problem for people.
Okay. I mean, yeah,
people were friggin' pissed.
Cotton is a huge resource. It is kind of important.
Yeah, but they're like really upset. We will be getting to know more about this American Civil War and the way that it was exploited during these expos, though, in a different podcast episode far later down. With money and resources kind of tight for the British Empire, they went to the public and held a fundraiser, raising £250,000 sterling, which went towards building the brand new giant exhibition hall that was super required for this.
Okay, so hang on, let me get this straight. We just had a massive war.
Two
massive wars. Sorry, a massive cotton shortage, which would have like actually harmed the economy to like a massive extent. A royal leader died, and we're still gonna do a fundraiser and ask everybody to pitch in some money for a giant exhibition hall instead of choosing a pre-existing venue.
Well, yes, because their already built giant greenhouse that they had used for the 1851 one had not burned to the ground yet. It was still up and running, being used for other exhibitions.
But they weren't going to use it for this one?
Hell no!
Because how can you be bigger and better than France if you reuse old resources?
Exactly.
Building new ones. Okay, cool. All right. Maybe not the time to be like, I don't think the economy was stable enough for this kind of undertaking. I don't know that okay.
Yeah, no.
I have questions about the logic behind this decision.
Well, these buildings, though, were actually designed and built to be permanent.
Right, yeah. So then why are we building new ones every time?
The ones that they fundraised for were actually designed and built to be permanent.
Okay.
So at least they were, like, actually thinking this smartly somewhat.
We're thinking forward now.
Yes.
Thinking forward is a good thing.
So
reusing buildings for more than once instead of wearing them once like a prom dress and then never touching them again.
Yeah.
Maybe not the best plan.
So the committee decided on South Kensington as the grounds for the exposition and built these massive, undecorated, palace-style buildings on 21 acres of land. The idea
undecorated, hang on, undecorated being like the furniture, or undecorated in like the furniture, or like the architecture was like less decorative?
A mix of that.
A mix. Okay.
So the idea was that the exposition would decorate them for the time being. And then, as funds allowed, the buildings would be decorated slowly over time as their permanent use became apparent.
Okay, I get this. Okay, I get this. This sounds like a great idea. Okay, because then it's a blank canvas, and then you can put whatever you want on it, and then change the theme every year. This makes sense. This makes sense.
I kind of
sounds like
I'm like I kind of like that.
Planning.
It's a very artistic way of doing it, right? Like,
this is a great way to do it. Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
So the buildings themselves are made of cast iron, but given a brick facade to look nicer on the outside.
Okay. Cool.
Currently, you can visit them as they are now the Natural History Museum and Science Museum.
So still standing. Cool.
Yep.
All
and
right,
very nicely decorated.
I'm still waiting for the other boot to drop, but this sounds so far like a really good idea.
So one part of the buildings was actually made to be temporary, however. And that was the Machinery Gallery, which was made of timber and stretched along the Prince Consort Road of the expo grounds.
Okay.
The parts from that gallery were sold and went towards the building of Alexandra Palace, which is a sporting and entertainment venue in North London.
Okay.
So one note of interest about Alexandra Palace is that they actually had a fire where afterwards the burnt out shell of it was used in the filming of the adaptation of George Orwell's 1984 as the location of Victory Square in the early 1980s.
Oh, that checks
So
out.
talk about coincidental timing there. Like, hey, this place just burnt out, like just burnt, and is like a perfect venue for this, like
for this like
filming,
dystopian novel adaptation. Yeah, that
like
checks
before
out.
you repair it, can we quickly use it?
I kind of like that. I kind of like that idea as long as it's like structurally sound and safe for the actors. Like I kind of like that
I guess
idea,
it was because like
actually.
I didn't see anything about like actor died in
I mean,
structural,
that's good because it happened like a lot.
right?
That happened a lot for a long time before they started getting more serious about actors' safety.
Yeah. So quick numbers before we get into the exhibits and all that fun stuff. The 1862 fair did not get that many more people than the 1851 London fair. Just reaching over the 6 million mark for their patronage numbers. But they also did not make as much money as they did in 1851 either. Not by a long shot. But they also spent a lot more money on this one.
Okay.
So they spent £458,842, not converted to our current rate. And they only brought in £459,632, leaving them with about £790 as a profit.
Oh no. That's okay. I mean, at least they still made a profit.
Yeah, so clearly Prince Albert's organization helped fund up-and-coming scientists/researchers, was not getting a lot out of this particular fair, but they still did way better than France did in 1855 with no deficit and a better outcome of attendance.
Okay. So that seems good.
Yeah. So one more quick number before we get into the exhibits. 39 countries attended this fair, which is still more than the past two official fairs, who were both under 30 countries in attendance. And this means more exhibits to talk about.
Cool.
And the first exhibit that I want to talk about is one that I actually think was really quite sweet and interesting. So, as I mentioned earlier, Queen Victoria was unable to attend as she was in mourning for her husband's passing.
Right.
And I honestly think, though, that she would have wanted to attend because he seemed to really love these expositions, and it actually probably would be like a healing experience for her.
Yeah.
But as we all know, the royals have their strict
policies.
This is how things run in the royal family. You cannot deviate.
Yeah.
But luckily, one of the exhibits in attendance actually helped her achieve that from her seclusion at home. So there were these new types of photographs being produced and sold as merch, which were 350-degree stereo views of the exhibition. And a messenger would deliver a box set of these images, which were captured with a collodion wet plate process directly to the Queen so that she could experience it all in 3 dimensions while the public were forced to pay a pretty penny for their own box sets.
Okay, that's kind of cute.
Yeah, so I'm like, I could just see her just sitting there with all of her, like, animals and stuff, just sitting there and, like, looking at all these photos to experience the expo from the comfort of her home and...
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. That sounds kind of thoughtful.
Yeah, I'm just probably like thinking of like how much her like, even probably like, possibly even like talking to her husband, being like, "Hey, I think you would have liked this one, or you could have done this so much better if you were in charge of it."
Yeah, just at least being able to see like this is his legacy.
Yeah, like for like, the London exhibitions, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, you also had exhibits such as the electric telegraph and submarine cables, which redefined the way we could communicate around the world. The first plastic, which is Parkinsine, which is a celluloid that is commonly used today in table tennis balls and guitar picks.
Cool.
Looms and cotton mills, which I'm guessing that those exhibits probably didn't have as much of time because they couldn't get the cotton to run the cotton mills.
Yeah, I see that being a problem, yeah.
And then these beautiful stained glass windows that were displayed by the famous French artist Charles Laurent Marchal.
Okay.
One of the exhibits that caused quite a stir of excitement was the manufacturing of ice by an early refrigerator prototype.
The manufacturing of ice. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like, we're talking first freezer kind of thing?
I think it's kind of almost like your first, like, freezer that could, like, almost, like, create ice?
Okay. Okay.
Like, you know, like, how our freezers now, like,
Mhm.
create ice inside of it? I think it's kind of like one of those.
Cool. That's even more advanced.
It was likely not the safest form of refrigeration, however, as at that time they were using ammonia as coolant. And I don't think we really want a lot of ammonia in our homes, considering that it's not even the safest thing to have at, like, ice rinks and stuff like that, as you see a lot of ammonia leaks and stuff at, like, ice rinks.
Great. No, I'm really glad. Yeah, yikes. That's not. Yeah. That's a risky move.
But really, we'd actually been experimenting with refrigeration for quite some time, with the first documented public demonstration of artificial cooling happening in 1756.
Wow, okay.
So while it wasn't really like a new idea, it was still exciting to see the new forms.
Yeah, definitely. See how, like, different ways the technology can be used.
Yeah.
Like, watch it kind of grow and evolve into what we know now.
Exactly. So there's also a competition happening throughout this exposition.
Mm-hmm.
Patrons might happen to find themselves stumbling upon a riveting game of chess if they happened near the London 1862 chess tournament section of the hall.
Okay.
It wouldn't be as exciting as the competitions at an expo later on in our timeline, but it was for the 14 men involved.
Okay, so not just like anyone who visits the expo can play. It's like an actual competition, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Adolf Anderson of Prussia would take away the top prize of the event of £100, while Wilhelm Steins of the Austrian Empire would take the £5 Brilliancy Prize for his game against UK chess player Augustus Mongredien. Steins ended up actually 6th overall, while Mongredien was 13th. So the Brilliancy Prize goes to the winner of a game where a spectacular, deep, and beautiful strategic idea, combination, or original plan happens.
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't know that there was like a prize for just having a really cool game. Because I would never win at chess, but I could possibly just figure out like a really cool fucking combo and win a prize that way.
Yeah, that's fair. That is an interesting subcategory to have in there.
Yeah. I wonder if they still do that, because then I could just, like, figure out, like, some really cool friggin', like, chess combos, and then just be like, I know I'm never gonna win, but I'm gonna try to win just this prize.
Yeah, oh gosh.
So, the 1862 expo also decided to have a major portion of the expo dedicated to music. You may remember from the introduction episode that Mozart wrote his last piece for the very first World Fair ever held in the 1700s. Many other composers decided to take on the challenge, and they wrote some of their best works for this exposition. One of the advisors was the music critic Henry Chorley, and he immediately knew which 4 composers he wanted to make original pieces and perform them. Unfortunately for him, though, one of his top composers, Gioacchino Rossini, was in retirement and absolutely not willing to leave his life of luxury for this.
Oh no.
So he had to find a replacement, which kind of wasn't hard to do. William Sterndale Bennett, one of the top composers that Chorley wanted, wrote basically the opening piece to the expo. And it was called, big breath, Ode Written Expressly for the Opening of the International Exposition.
Oh my goodness, that's like a Panic at the Disco kind of title. No, that's not even right. Fall Out Boy. That's like a Fall Out Boy kind of title.
Yeah.
Looking at you, our lawyers made us change the name of this song so we wouldn't get sued.
Yeah. The other 2 main wanted composers also wrote pieces for the opening gala concert, which were much shorter titled. Giacomo Meyerbeer wrote Fest Overture, Marchetel.
See, that's a name I can remember.
And Daniel Auber wrote one called Grand Triumphal March.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. See, nice, succinct names that are
exactly
like memorable.
Unfortunately, the backup for Rossini did not have his piece performed at the opening of the expo. Okay. Ino del Nazzoni was a shit show in its composition and the communication between the composer / the committee.
Oh no.
Giuseppe Verdi could not seem to decide on whether he was composing a march, which is basically for wind chimes, or an overture. The committee had given the composers 4 options as to what they could compose their music into, and the composers had to get approval on their idea, which they kind of needed to stick to.
Uh-huh.
Verdi told fellow composer Auber that he was writing a march as well, but then in a letter to the committee proposed an overture. Then in a later letter, he decided to change his overture to a cantina with Italian words, which was not in the approved list.
These are not the same. These are not the same thing. These are not the same style.
No.
This is not a plan.
The committee said no, as they thought it'd be too large for the exposition space. But
Yeah,
Verdi
fair
went
enough.
along with it anyways, finished the draft, and sent it along with his wife for approval.
Buddy, this is a bad plan.
The committee were stubborn and refused to meet with Verdi's wife or even glance at the work. Verdi then traveled to London, completely confident that his work was going to be performed.
This bro's an idiot.
Yeah, it was still a no.
No, you don't say. I like how he's like, oh, I have to get approval for this thing. Oh, they said no. I'll just do it anyway, as if that's how approval works. Like, bruh, they said no. Use the piece at a different time. Just write a different piece.
Yeah. So it was written
Sir.
for voices and not just an orchestra, which was against the rules. It hadn't
Buddy.
arrived in time. No time to rehearse. Just can't be done.
Sir, that's not how planning works. That's not how any of this works.
And when the press got a hold of the news, it was plastered all over the papers that Verdi couldn't handle a deadline.
I mean, they're not wrong.
In response, Verdi wrote to the Times and blasted the committee, saying that it was their fault for saying that 25 days, which is enough to learn an opera, wasn't enough time to learn a simple cantata.
Buddy, you read all the rules and decided that they don't apply to you. It is not the committee's fault at this point. It's just yours.
Well, the
Like,
public
that's it.
sided with Verdi, and the
Of course they did.
committee had to give way, finally allowing the cantata to be performed 23 days later at Her Majesty's Royal Theatre.
I have no words. I have no words.
Verdi actually admitted to being glad that his piece was not shown at the opening concert, as the opening concert only had a lukewarm approval from the audience.
Correct.
His
So-
was like an astounding approval, and like everyone was just like in awe and loved it.
Which I mean is great for him. I just think that maybe, I don't know, I wonder if he had stuck to the rules and just like did something that they approved of, if he could have made the first concert better, you know? Instead
Possibly.
of being a diva and trying to do what he wanted anyway,
Yeah.
and going off and creating a whole second concert.
Yeah. But
Like,
still,
he could have
Verdi's piece mainly garnered the attention due to the controversy surrounding it, and most reviews were full of sympathy for the composer and not a lot of praise for the piece itself.
Oh, okay. So it's literally just all PR. It's
Like,
not
so,
even
like,
necessarily that the music was good. It's just that
Well, the audience was like, we love
uh-huh.
the piece, but then
Uh-huh.
the actual like critical reviews
Uh-huh.
did the whole tabloid thing of we're gonna use the controversy and
Yeah.
and stuff, right? And we're not gonna talk about the actual piece itself because we're gonna up the whole controversy thing,
gotcha.
right? It's the 1800s. It's the start of like your whole tabloid, like stupid journalism.
The origins of clickbait.
Yeah.
God.
So, lastly, before we briefly talk about Canada at the 1862 Expo, I would like to touch upon one accident that is mentioned to have happened at this one. Somehow, the platforms were not built great at the Expo,
Oh no.
and there were
Oh, no.
gaps between the floorboards.
Oh no. Okay.
Honestly, the organizers were lucky that only one person was gravely injured by this flaw.
That's a bit of a problem.
But unfortunately, it was on
Hmm.
opening day, and that one person was a 70-year-old British Minister of Parliament.
No! Oh, that's so bad. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so bad.
Whoops!
Oh, no. Why? Why?
So,
How did this happen?
Robert
How did this happen?
Agileboy Slaney fell directly through the floorboard of the platform. So somehow they
Ooh,
were
that's
big
okay.
enough that this man fell directly through the fucking
Why are the
floorboard.
caps so big? Did they run out of floorboards? Like, how?
I don't know,
After
but
all of this
somehow,
public fundraising, they couldn't get a proper floor in?
somehow he fell directly through the floorboard of the platform
How do you mess up a floor?
and onto the ground, resulting in an injured leg.
Yeah.
He was able to
I bet it-
continue with his visit to the expo that day.
He didn't. Okay. I mean, at that point, you paid for the ticket and you paid with your legs, so you may as well just see all the sights, I guess.
But 18 days
Oh,
later,
buddy.
he would end up passing away from an onset of gangrene in that leg.
No, stop it. So he literally died because they didn't make sure the floorboards touched each other? Are you serious?
Yep.
That is horrific. That is awful.
And it's a freaking painful death with gangrene. Like, it's a massive infection. Your leg basically turns black.
Ah, that sounds so bad.
Like, it is a painful
That's
as fuck death.
How do you mess up so badly? Someone got fired that day for sure. Like, that is like... that would
It's
be
1800s, honey. I don't think anybody got fired.
Someone got fired.
No, honey, it's the 1800s. I don't think anybody got fired.
But a minister fell through a floor and died, dude. I think
Yeah.
someone, like... That's crazy.
Yeah. They probably just went, it's a one death.
It's only one guy.
It's only one.
Forget the fact that he's, like,
He was
powerful and
70. He
probably
was
wealthy.
already
He's,
pretty
like,
old.
70. That is the lifespan. That is the
I'm
average
like, it's the
lifespan at that time.
1800s.
Like,
He's old.
God. Wow. That's horrific. That is awful.
Yeah.
Ah,
But I mean, it's only one death. I mean, that's actually pretty dang good for World's Fair.
only
Like,
one died because of our negligence. It's not that bad.
yeah. I'm actually
Oh,
pretty
God.
impressed.
That's awful. That's so
Like,
bad.
especially if the floorboards were that friggin' far
That
apart
is-
that a man could fall fucking
No.
through.
Seriously, I mean, if it's like that bad, I guess, yeah, it is kind of impressive that it was only one, but it's the same level of oversight as packing a whole bunch of people into the freaking greenhouse, like from the last one where everyone was getting heat stroke. Like, it's the same, like, it seems like it's such an obvious thing that, like, why would you leave gaps in the floor? Why would you
Well,
put all
and
these
they're
people
that
in a
big.
greenhouse?
Like, were people, like, jumping over these fucking gaps in this platform?
As people who paid to be there. People who paid to be there.
Like, what the heck?
This is like for some of those people, it's probably like a once in a lifetime experience, and they're like jumping over gaps in the construction. Like, that's awful.
Yeah.
They all deserve a refund.
I expected that, like, he,
but
like,
no,
like,
but they
maybe
all
his
deserve-
leg fell through, and then he kind of got stuck, and then how he got injured. Not that he fully fucking fell through to the ground.
I was expecting someone's heel got like heel, like
Yeah.
stiletto heel got caught and like
They
snapped
twisted
and like
their
twisted
leg
their
and,
ankle
like,
or something.
broke a leg,
I wasn't
right?
expecting fell through the floor. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
good gravy.
All right, so on to Canada.
Mhm.
Nobody died.
True, strong, and free, keeping everyone alive for one day. We're really killing it, guys. Or
So-
not, I guess.
I did find it difficult to find a lot of information on Canada during this particular expo, so we don't get as detailed as the other two. But I
Fair
did
enough.
find a literal booklet that outlines every single exhibit that we had.
Frick yeah.
So I thought I'd just
What'd you
give
find?
a brief snapshot of the types of exhibits that we were putting on display. First of all, one page of this book literally starts with someone showing one piece of smoked bacon, one piece of dried bacon, and two bologna sausages.
So we brought food. That's our exhibit?
Yeah.
Is we brought snacks?
This was somebody named G. Reinhardt from Montreal.
Oh my god. I mean, we're just happy to be there. Let's be real. We're happy anytime. I feel like Canadian history is just like as far as like the international politics side of it, I feel like Canadian history is just the British acknowledged us.
Right?
Like that's it. Like,
well, I mean,
like,
right under him though were two people who were at least showing off wine made from Canadian, like wild Canadian grapes.
No, but we got bacon.
Like he freaking brought like random pieces of bacon to show off.
Bacon. I mean, bacon is delicious.
Let's but like, I'm pretty sure they had bacon back in London.
Yeah, that's hardly seems groundbreaking to smoke meat,
right?
And then bring it. Like I would
prefer to go hang out with the nice people with the wild Canadian grape wine. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds actually delicious. I'm not gonna lie.
Later on down the page was a lovely four-wheeled carriage from Clove Ledoux, who was also from Montreal. It has actually a price attached to it. Kat, would you like to take a guess as to how much a carriage might have cost you in 1862?
Carriage. I feel like that's the equivalent to a car now. So
I'm looking at it in pounds, so remember that.
I'm in pounds. Okay, I don't understand pounds at all. So this is going to be probably wildly incorrect. I'm going to guess maybe like 10,000 pounds.
Ooh.
Am I over? Under?
You're way over.
I'm way over. Okay. 3,000 pounds.
Yeah, no.
Still way over. Still way over.
Still way over.
Oh God. 500?
It was only 90 pounds, ladies and gents.
90 pounds?
90 pounds.
For like a car, basically. It's the equivalent to like a car.
Yeah.
It's only 90?
It's only 90 pounds for carriage. Your horses might have cost more, but your carriage itself was only 90 pounds.
Okay, I guess that does make sense.
And it sounded like a nice carriage.
Yeah. Okay.
Now for a priceless exhibit item, all the way from Montreal yet again. And I do promise there are other items that are not from Montreal, but I just seem to have picked the Montreal items. We have ourselves a diagram of diurnal changes of temperature of air and water of the river St. Lawrence.
Really?
Yeah, don't get too excited now, because if that doesn't tickle your fancy, you could make way to the Nelson and Wood exhibit.
Ah, Nelson and Wood. What is it? Just different kinds of wood, or like?
Well, there you have your pick between 18 types of brooms, whisks, and dusters.
Ah, yes, yeah. I love brooms, whips, and dusters.
Whisks.
That sounds
not whips, honey. We're not gonna.
Okay, that's so different. Oh God. That's
we're not going a little. We're not going there, hon. Or
I was thinking like horse, like yeah. Anyway, ignore me.
Or you could go thumb through 17 school and textbooks, which are now legally approved in Lower Canada, while you're sitting at one of the school desks that were brought to exhibit in 3 different sizes.
Okay.
So you can pick which size would you fit in.
That sounds so thrilling.
Right?
They're just the most. Just yeah.
Pick up your bacon, pick up a glass of wine.
And then see if you fit in a child's desk.
While you thumb through your 17 school and textbooks that are legally approved.
Legally approved. I am fascinated by that phrasing, legally approved. Like, what was not a legally approved textbook? Like, what were they putting in those ones?
I don't know. Probably history that they didn't want the kids to actually know.
Oh, good point.
Like, they probably was like, you need to know how great we are and how bad these people are. Don't change it over. Like,
that's a good point. Propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 1800s. Like,
I'm just wondering if like legally approved is like what's in like our core curriculum now, or
don't teach them where babies come like, from. It's the storks.
It's the storks. Yeah, don't tell women what pregnancy or like childbirth is like, then they might not want it. So
exactly. Don't teach women that they can be equal to men. You must teach them that at this age they must go into the women's home, into the home.
I mean, to be totally fair, this is complete conjecture on our part now. Like, we have no idea what was in the legal versus illegal textbooks.
But that was most likely in the 1800s, kind of what it was at this time.
It was much different, yeah.
So the book also has some of our awards. One medal that we won was awarded to Walton R. for the discovery of good roofing slates. Congrats to Walton.
You know what? I'm sure that was his life work and genuinely should be celebrated.
Right?
Roofing slates.
Yes.
Thrilling. We're still on the trend of just the most thrilling contributions.
I mean,
you know what? That would actually be really important. That would be
very important at that point.
I make jokes, but that would be really important. Roofing is like an actual it's kind of detrimental if it's not done well.
Yeah.
I live in a place where we get like lots of snow, and if you have a bad roof, that melt off is going to destroy everything you own. So genuinely, it is really important. It sounds like it's boring, but actually I can't imagine life where we don't have contributions like that. So I'll stop poking fun at it because it is actually really important.
The Montreal Mining Company was awarded a medal for an interesting series of copper ores accompanied by plans and sections of the workings. And I'm not kidding. These are the descriptions that came with the awards.
Mm-hmm.
We won awards for things like good quality hams, illustrated maple syrup, a collection of scientifically named woods of the colony. To be fair, we had 98 types of wood apparently at the time, and this guy included the leaves, so he won an award.
Okay, wait, actually, that's botany. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excellent oatmeal quality.
Excellent oatmeal quality.
4 awards for iron plows, so apparently we had really good iron plows. Bird collections, and good machine-made nails.
Okay.
Like, I thought we'd make some more entertaining things, but apparently good bacon is actually up there in our entertainment for the 1860s.
I mean, you know what? Like, this is, like, these are valid things. These are valid, very important things that would have been, like, actually game-changing at the time. So, you know what? Good on them for figuring this stuff out.
Yeah. And, you know what? And I think that's about where we're going to leave it for the 1862 World Fair / Expo.
Thrilling stuff.
Yeah, like it isn't our most entertaining expo, but I think we got like a lot of like what it's like in the early 1860s. We did have a good death.
There was a single death, so there was still some drama.
There was still at least some drama. We also had the controversy with the musicians, you know, like...
This is true.
So there was a little bit of entertainment, but we also had bacon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bacon. Just bacon. I mean, that's kind of the most Canadian thing I can picture. I'm not going to lie. It's just like, oh, what's that? We're having a World Expo. Let's bring bacon and maple syrup. It's like,
woohoo!
That does actually
I mean, honestly, though, maple syrup on bacon.
Somewhere.
Like, bacon and eggs just smothered in maple syrup. So freaking good.
Of course. I'm Canadian. I grew up that way. We all know this. But, like, the stereotype came from somewhere. It just kind of... It drives the point home sometimes to hear it.
Yeah.
Like, being validated, you know?
Yeah. All right. So our next fair is in 1867. Where do you think we're jetting off to next, Kat?
Let's see. Okay, so we've been in London, we've been in France, and I feel like I'm kind of assuming that we're going to bounce back to France again.
Yep, that's right. We're going back to good old Paris.
This is what I mean, the Cold War of entertainment.
We're not finished with our mini World Fair award just yet.
Yeah.
So
they're still trying to outdo each other.
We'll see you guys all back in Paris as it's getting turned into New Paris next time on the Weird Side of History.
Bye.